Have a few minutes? You won't believe what you can do with it. Open a Regions checking account online in as little as 5 minutes. Then enjoy award-winning service and banking tools and tech that help you live in the moment. Learn more at regions.com/live in the moment. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Gwinnett Business Radio. Gwinnett Business Radio is presented by Regions Bank. Brave the beginning. Member FDIC.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Harper LaBelle. Mike Salmon is going to be on the show with us today. Jennifer Deloach from the DeLoach Law Practice is also with us. We look forward to hearing a little bit more. Everybody needs a good doctor, a good mechanic, obviously a great spouse or partner, and a good lawyer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Before we do, let's just mention Regions Bank. They're a sponsor here with us, and we're happy to discuss them and all the things that they're able to do. Regions Bank is here to help you with your financial future and to stay on the right track. Regions Commercial Banking has a team of experienced bankers in Gwinnett who can guide you in all areas of your growth. Get the resources that you need so that every step that you take moves you closer to your business goals. To learn more, visit with a regions.com or commercial banking representative. Regions Bank, member FDIC. I've only said it once.
That was Bellworthy.
Was it what? Yeah,
Bellworthy.
Was it a good read?
Yeah, good read.
Like the folks at Regions. They're doing a great job. Well, Mike, you were able to schedule Jennifer Deloach here. Would you like to introduce her, or do I get the great pleasure? She's been around the... She's been all around the country, let's put it that way.
Well, Gwinnett County born and bred, but spent a little time in your neck of the woods, California.
Yeah.
But has been back.
But she's a UGA grad, which is important for you.
Exactly.
I mean, anyone that is a Bulldog, Jennifer, really has top priority in Mike's scheme of things.
Well,
so you're a local girl. Jennifer Deloach is with us, and you're from the Gwinnett County area. Is right down the street from where we are right now. Tell us a little bit about what growing up and then actually getting to go to UGA, going to law school, and everything that it took for you to get your future started.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Lawrenceville native. My family moved here when I was less than 2 years old. So this is where all of my childhood memories were formed. And Lawrenceville was very different then. If anyone has been here for longer than 20 years, you know exactly what I mean. Downtown Lawrenceville is now, it's gorgeous. There's restaurants everywhere. There's things to do. It wasn't exactly like that growing up. It was a lot more small town, kind of quaint, which has its charm, but I was really kind of itching to go somewhere a little bigger with more going on. It's how I wound up on the West Coast later. But I went to Berry College for my undergrad after graduating from Central Gwinnett High School in '97. Went to Berry College, majored in history and English, minored in women's studies because, why not have a minor and stay in college a little bit longer? That's what I was figuring at the time. And then I went to UGA and got my law degree in 2005.
Now, there's all types of law. What kind of law do you practice at the DeLoach Law, not law firm, law practice?
We practice primarily family law, and we also do estate planning and probate work. So that includes everything from divorces and child custody disputes all the way to name changes, some adoptions. We do a little bit of everything when it comes to family law, prenups, postnups. As far as estate planning, we'll do wills, trusts, powers of attorney, advanced health care directives. Also, we do probate, whether it's contested or not. If someone that you care about has passed away, we help you administer their estate and perhaps defend it from any claims.
What got you down that path to that type of law compared to maybe some of the other types of law that you could have practiced?
Sure. When I first started in California, I did primarily business litigation, and a lot of lawyers do that. We end up practicing whatever our first job turns out to be. We were lucky enough to get a job at a firm. They throw us into a niche, and most of us stay there, sort of. I think doctors have a little bit more control, but they also kind of get boxed in once they pick a specialty. But at a certain point, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, I did leave law for a few years, and I came back to it thinking what I really didn't feel before was a personal connection to my clients. When all of your clients are businesses, people's money matters to them, so it's important. But what really matters to people is their families and their loved ones, protecting those things. And so I wanted to really kind of play to my strengths, which is interpersonal skills and building connections with people. And to me, family law and estate planning are exactly what fits that path.
So was there ever that temptation, or at least the desire in one way, shape, or form to be the Perry Mason, get up in front, be on television, or have that L.A. Law, My Cousin Vinny? They're all in different ways The OJ case was on every single day for almost
Oh, sure.
9 or 10 months, if I remember correctly. And so you get to know all of this, and you figure, wow, this is high-profile stuff. But some people go, nah, that's for somebody else. That may not be for me specifically.
Sure. And a lot of people, the OJ trial for my generation was pretty big deal. I remember watching that. I remember teachers pausing class to watch the verdict while came out while we were in school. And I think if I could be a cross between Marcia Clark and Tom Cruise from A Few Good Men and My Cousin Vinny, I mean, that's every lawyer's dream. My Cousin Vinny is actually an excellent movie if you want to learn civil procedure. It's if you take out the F-bombs, you can show it to kids and say, this is how it works. It's very good. Yeah. And there's a lot of drama in TV shows. I remember loving The Practice and Boston Legal. It's not a huge surprise probably to hear that the actual practice of law is not at all like that. It's not nearly as dramatic. It's not nearly as funny, unfortunately. It has its moments. I think I did. I mean, the first lawyer I really, really idolized as far as fiction went was probably Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, the great defense attorney who did the right thing. But I was never really called to do criminal law. That was just not something for me. So it's fascinating, and I love hearing other people's stories from the trenches with criminal law. But I really like what I do.
Well, in the terms of, the ABCs, you're covering the A's and the B's and parts of the C's. It's just not the dramatic TV drama stuff, but everything that you mentioned a little bit earlier, especially now with wills and probates and trusts and all that kind of stuff. Those are T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted by everybody. I'm sure everybody has an example of somebody that, everything was great until we found out that grandma didn't exactly do this the right way, and now we're in a little bit of a pickle.
Yes, and that's happening all the time lately. And the sad thing is, it happens when people think they've done the right thing. They've tried to do the right thing. They went to one of the websites I won't necessarily call out, but they've printed off that $20 or $50 will and filled in the blanks, and they think that they've done it correctly. And they don't realize that they've bought a one-size-fits-all legal template that isn't necessarily admissible in every jurisdiction and doesn't meet the requirements for where you are. And Georgia, for instance, requires what's called a self-proving affidavit. And that's just a little page at the back of your will where you sign again, the witnesses sign a second time, and it's notarized. And there are certain forms online that people are bringing in that are missing that page, or they have an out-of-state lawyer who they know from somehow who does it as a gift, and so they haven't complied with that requirement. Doesn't mean the will isn't admissible at all, but there are extra steps you've got to go through. There's extra affidavits to get. There may be an extra evidentiary hearing to be had. And so in your effort to do the right thing and save some money, you've actually cost your family a lot of money and time trying to fix that mistake, when it could have been avoided just by paying a local lawyer who knows the local rules to do your will.
Now, as a client, I would also throw in maybe, as an example, things change, don't they? Or there's an oops, or something happens, and things need to be modified or amended, or what there are a lot of different processes that you're able to take care of and see in advance so that folks can make sure that they're properly taken care of at the right time.
Absolutely. And the will that I use really anticipates a lot of changes. It anticipates that you may have more children or fewer children, sadly, at the time of your death than you do when you make the will. I always say you don't need to redo one of my wills because it allows for so many different things to happen and has so many if-then provisions. The only time that you'd really need to redo the entire will is if you gain or lose a spouse, I say, and if you lose your spouse but you don't remarry, that's not necessary because there's always an if-then provision. But if you were to, say, get divorced to bring up family law again and then you remarry, you absolutely need to redo your will and other important documents, and that's just a step that a lot of people skip.
So Mike doesn't want to have a second, third, or even a fourth wife right now. That you're not recommending that he does that.
Oh, no. I don't recommend it. But if you do, for sure, you're going to need a second, third, and fourth will to match.
Why use me as an example? Why not you as the example? Why couldn't it be Harper's second, third, or fourth wife?
I can't look at me, right? I'm looking at you. And
so
I wanted you to be one of the live guinea pigs.
You talk about people that go online and get their wills done that way. They probably are doing it that way because they think because it is cheaper.
Sure.
But they don't have an idea of how much it costs to maybe talk to a Jennifer Deloach. I just found out this past week that my father-in-law does not have a will. And when we asked him why, It's going to cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And first of all, here's a guy who has plenty of money, so why would that be an issue? But that's not to talk us through it as far as the cost, because some people think it's just so expensive, but a simple will is not that expensive at all.
It really isn't, especially when you consider the thousands and thousands of dollars it will cost him if he dies without a valid will or without any will at all.
Right. You could pay a little now or a lot more later.
Exactly. And so, I mean, a lot of lawyers aren't exactly clear about their fees, and there's some secrecy surrounding it. I have no trouble sharing what I charge for a basic estate plan package. I pride myself on being very transparent with my fees, which I think are super fair. So what I do is I offer a package that includes a simple will, a durable power of attorney, and an advanced healthcare directive. Those are the 3 documents I think everybody needs, whether you have a tiny little estate or millions of dollars. Everybody needs those documents. If you do have millions of dollars, you probably need more, but you do need these 3. And I offer all of that for individuals for $1,000, and that includes a consultation, that includes the first draft and 1 set of revisions. Now, if we have 7 or 8 sets of revisions that aren't my fault, I'm going to charge a little bit more. If they are my fault, then I'm not going to charge you for that. But they're, and then if you're doing it for a married couple, I do recommend that you each have your own set, that you don't have one will. And there's lots of reasons for that. Both of you need your own separate will. I'll do that for $1,500 instead of $1,000 because, frankly, once I've got the information for one of you, I've got it for the next, and it takes me half as long to write the document, so I charge you half as much.
Is that one thing that makes maybe the DeLoach Law Practice a little different from maybe others out there? Because there's a lot of people that are in estate planning and family law.
There are a lot in those 2 categories, and those are just 2 things where there's plenty to go around. There's no, for me anyway, there's no jealousy. I refer cases to my fellow family law practitioners. They refer them to me. Same with estate planning. Everybody needs a will. Everybody needs a probate whenever somebody they love has died, and everybody has a family. A single person home is a family. If you're single, and I was for a long time single, you're the backbone of your family. So there you go. And everybody needs these documents. And
estate planning is not just for the people that have a lot of money. I mean, estate planning, everybody should have it. As you said, it's one of the basics.
People hear the word estate, and they assume that that's for rich people. And they make other assumptions like, well, if I died tomorrow, the law will take care of me. My spouse gets it all. Or and so that's true in some cases. In other cases, it's just not true. If you're on your second marriage and you have kids from the first marriage, maybe they get along, maybe they don't, and maybe they won't get along once there's money involved. So let's just say, let's use a random fictional person and say somebody dies and he's on his second marriage. His wife might not get along with his adult children from the first marriage. He dies without a will. The new wife is entitled to at least 1/3 of his estate. Now, she can always go to the probate court and ask for more, but she's entitled to a statutory 1/3 minimum, which means that she's fighting with his kids to see who gets the other 2/3. It's not automatically 1/3 each. There has to be a bit of a legal fight about it. And so by paying $1,000 to have a will in place, he could have avoided this huge legal battle between the people that he loved the most.
One of my understandings, the point you just made, families can be forever divided because Dad said yes and you're telling me no. You know what I mean? So, and things, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they change. Going back to you, let's say, and amending or saying, oh, by the way, I've got some assets now that I didn't have a little while ago. What is that process like? And is there an additional fee to where people would say, oh, I'd rather not pay than deal with the confusion of somebody getting older and foregoing? I'm going to ask that first, and then I have a follow-up for you real quick. But
okay.
So when things change, can I amend my will, and what is that process like with you?
Sure. So the answer is usually yes, but with a lot of questions lawyers get, the answer is also it depends. So it depends on the change that you want to make. Now, 9 times out of 10, we can do what's called an addendum. It's just a simple addition to a will. It's a document that becomes part of your will, and it just says paragraph blank that used to read this should now read that. You sign it, it's notarized, and it's that simple. It's a very simple process and a very inexpensive process. Essentially, you'll buy an hour of my time, and we're done. Okay. Now, if you did remarry and you did have more children, or perhaps you want to disinherit one of your children for something or another relative for something, and there are a lot of reasons for that. It's not always family drama and people not getting along. I've had some clients who have disinherited wisely because a child has a lot of debts and they don't want that child to come into a lot of money that's immediately going to go and pay those debts. Yeah. I've had other people disinherit because they have a child with addiction issues and they don't want that child to come into a huge sum while they're also grieving a parent, because that's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And so there are lots of reasons to do that. Things like that are a little bit more involved, and that's when we start talking about just redoing the will. And even then, it's worth spending the $1,000 to do it, to make sure that everything's okay once you're gone.
Thank you. And then to follow up, my I don't know if this is a more important question, but in terms of my understanding, talk a little bit about the tax ramifications if you don't have things, if you don't have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, because I know there's a lot of folks that would just love to give all their money and their inheritance away to the government, but there's a few folks that would say, I'd rather keep it within the family. Talk a little bit about how that implication in the vitality of that, how important it is.
Sure, and just so I let everybody know, I am not a tax professional at all and cannot give tax advice at all. So this is not on the level of talking to your financial planner or tax advisor at all. But I get a lot of questions about the estate tax, which you just mentioned. People are very scared to death of this estate tax. So just so we know, Georgia has no estate tax. There isn't one. The federal government does have an estate tax, but it doesn't kick in until your estate is, I think, $12 million. So it doesn't affect most of the people who ask me about it. Oddly,
that would only be one person at this table, and that would be Harper LaBelle.
So Harper will be talking about your trust later on, because that's what I'm going to recommend for huge estates like that. But
I didn't realize long snappers in the NFL made so much money.
Neither did I. I'm waiting to hear how that happens. Go right ahead, though, Jennifer. A little bit about the implications, obviously.
Sure. So you want to be careful and make sure that it's going to your family for sure. Most people do not need to worry about the estate tax. Other taxes, definitely talk to your tax professional about those.
All right. Let me ask you about divorce. That falls under family law, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Sometimes you see the commercials, you see the billboards, simple divorce, ridiculous low prices.
Right.
If me and my soon-to-be ex-wife, it's consensual. We're getting along. We could do it ourselves. Why should we still talk to someone like yourself? Why do we need a lawyer?
I will tell you exactly why. Because about 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call from the nicest guy in the world.
Can you give us names?
I cannot.
Johnny Depp. Johnny, and he wanted to talk about Amber. No.
I don't think either one of them would be the nicest person in the world talking about each other, but I wish them well.
Okay, so other people, not Johnny and Amber.
Nobody famous, just a client. It called up, and so that's exactly what he and his wife had done. They had no real assets except for, well, there was one, a house. I'll get into that later. But they didn't have children. And so they figured, hey, this is going to be pretty simple. Let's save some money and do it ourselves. And sometimes that works out great. But in their case, these are not unintelligent people. They're smart people. They're great people. Both of them had the intelligence, but they didn't understand the legal terminology. And so on the worksheet, when it asked for your assets and your debts, they didn't write the house or the mortgage. And so those assets were never dealt with in the divorce. And so now they're having to pay me 2-3 times what it would have cost to get it right the first time, because now we've got to go in and set a judgment aside and get it modified. And there's a lot more moving parts than just getting it right the first time. Yeah. And it's not that expensive again. The billboards advertising, simple divorce for $300, that's the filing fee. There's always a little asterisk next to that number, which is the attorney's fees they're going to tell you about when you call. But that's just the filing fee. It costs between $275 and $300 just to file a divorce in most counties in Georgia. Yeah.
Now, when people are getting a divorce, even if they are getting along, maybe like the couple you described, I've heard that each should still have their own representation, or...
I always recommend that. I do. The only time that you should feel safe just having one lawyer prepare all the documents is if you are 100% on the same page about everything. And then in which case, why are you getting divorced? But I would still recommend having a lawyer take a look.
Maybe you go into counseling at that point and say, maybe you two should stay together.
Yeah. But I recommend getting a lawyer to take a look at it just by an hour of their time. And some lawyers will do that and some won't. For me, I don't mind. I don't mind getting paid for 1 hour to read it and explain to you, this is what you're agreeing to. And then you can make a decision about whether you need representation or not, whether there is a fight there or not.
Do you have any type of... I won't call it a system, but maybe on your calendar, Hey, I'm going to call you in every 3 or 5 years just to follow up with you to make sure everything is okay. Because I would put it on the back burner and never worry about it again until somebody gets sick or actually passes away or something like that, if you know what I mean. It's just you don't think about it. But for example,
I would think unless there's a big life experience change, that would be fine, I would think.
Which is usually okay. It's usually a set it and forget it thing. But like you're saying, if you have a major change, like say a remarriage or you adopt a child or something that didn't exist before, those are all reasons why you should call your lawyer up and say, hey, do we need to redo it? But as far as following up, we do follow up with clients afterwards. We're a pretty new firm. We've been around for a couple of months, but we do keep a list and try to remember to send holiday cards and Mother's and Father's Day cards to our divorce clients and things like that, just to let them know that we're here and that we still care about you. We want your life to be good.
Well, you mentioned new in terms of the practice, but you've been practicing law again. So you got your degree in 2005, and then you moved out to California. Talk a little bit about that experience, leaving the great state of Georgia to go out west and strike
to the
gold.
less great state of California.
They're both great states, honestly. They're both home. They really are. I love them both for similar reasons and different reasons.
You're just sucking up to Harper right now.
I'm sucking up to California and Georgia. I love them both. But I ended up there. I had always had a fascination with the West Coast lifestyle, or what I thought it would be. You know, I think that a lot of places are just really fun to visit, but then you move there and you've got to go to work there and pay bills there and have a life there. And it's just a prettier scenery to do all the same
Drive for
stuff.
traffic, pay $7
the
for
traffic,
gas.
yeah.
All the good stuff. Yeah.
Atlanta is not great for traffic at all, but LA's even worse. So I loved living out there. I really did. It's 70 and sunny every day, which I know, or 80 and sunny, I guess, right now. But I just wanted to come home eventually. Yeah. But I ended up there wanting to go into entertainment law and ended up doing business law at a boutique litigation firm. So I have some experience in that realm as well. And practiced out in California for about 5.5 years before I came home to Georgia. And I didn't feel like taking the bar exam in Georgia, so I taught public school for about 5 years before I finally just buckled down and took the bar here so I could start practicing again.
School teacher, I can't imagine what it's like with 14 to 16, 18, 17-year-old boys that are just, come on. You got to convince them that you're going to teach them something or educate them. Now, did you teach law to them?
I did in high school. So I taught 4 years of middle school, so 7th and 8th graders, and trying to get them to care about history and geography at 7:30 in the morning is really fun. And then I taught a year at Central Gwinnett High School, which is
Oh, wow. So you taught at the school that you went to.
Exactly. I taught at the school that I went to, and there I did teach law classes. They had a pathway, a pre-law pathway, so I had a class on criminal procedure, a class on civil procedure, and then a class on just general legal concepts.
And the courthouse is right across the street, pretty much.
It
so
is.
You get to plant some seeds for some of the kids that may eventually go, that is kind of interesting, and I would like to be involved with that in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. And I had some really great guests come into my classroom, lawyers, judges. I had a couple of Lawrenceville police officers come in.
You had the connections that a regular teacher would not have.
Right.
Very cool.
It was a lot of fun. It was really, I missed the classroom things about teaching so much.
Well, if you had brought the police officers in while Mike was in your class, he'd be a little nervous.
Oh,
if
I
you
got
see
some
the
looks.
sweating, what's going on?
I'll tell you a funny story, and that's I had this one guy. I loved this student, by the way. He was not a Mensa candidate, but he was a sweet boy and just really funny. And when I mentioned that the Lawrenceville Police Department was going to send a couple of officers, he looked at me. He's like, "They're not bringing the dogs, are they?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "Leave your jacket in your locker."
Yeah.
Well, your concern was a few of the officers might recognize some of the students in the class, like, again.
Yeah, or some smells, I don't know, but it was really fun.
Or the Jeff Foxworthy line, Officer Smith, I thought you said that you didn't want to have to come back here this evening.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Enough said.
Well, Jennifer, I've known you for a little while now, so it's been great to finally get you to come on the show, talk about the practice. As Harper said, you've been practicing law here for quite some time, but now going out on your own, you don't have the partners anymore. You've got your own law firm. What's that been like as we start to wrap things up, kind of being your own firm now, not having other partners?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And the funny thing is, a few years ago, I didn't think of myself as somebody who would be comfortable as a sole practitioner. I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur who wanted to start a business and watch it grow. But I am having the time of my life. I'm working harder than I've ever worked before, but I'm having the time of my life, and you don't resent it when it's all for you, and you don't, you get to kind of direct where it's going and decide what business you want to grow. So I'm having a really good time, and I've got a very good friend working with me now, and she is her name is Jennifer as well, so we call her Bailey. But she deals with clients a lot. She does a lot of the client care.
Bailey would be her last name.
Bailey is her last name.
Okay, because if you called her Bailey and it wasn't her last name, that would be weird.
It would be weird, but it is. So,
in the market today, are you looking for other lawyers to join you, paralegals, other assistants? Are you getting to that point where you're going to start looking to expand? What's business like personally for you to where you're seeing the horizon 3 to 5 years from now?
3 to 5 years from now, I would love to have at least 2-3 more lawyers working with me. I would love to have more of a support staff. You need a support staff when you have more lawyers, of course. Right now, the business is about 3 months old. So I'm really glad to have as much of a success as we have so far, and I want to keep growing that for sure and not try to grow too fast. I want to make sure that I'm growing at the exact right speed. And right now, with 2 people at the firm, a lawyer and 1 support, is the perfect size for us right now. We do, like I said, we work a lot, so I think that we are going to outgrow that pretty soon. But right now it's perfect.
Well, the needs for the simplistic things that you've mentioned, the probate, the just the wills themselves, it seems to me that there's always going to be that kind of a need, and especially with some of the growth in downtown Lawrenceville, we're seeing there's some folks moving in, there's some new developments there, there's obviously some clients that you see that market, I would imagine, growing as well, and you want them to come to you personally, of course.
Oh, absolutely. I love Lawrenceville, I really do, and I live very close to downtown Lawrenceville in the South Lawn development, which I love. I love being walking distance from all the cool things that they've got going on just a few streets away, and definitely want to establish myself as a family lawyer in that area and just be the lawyer people call whenever anything happens. There's plenty of areas I don't practice in, for instance, personal injury or workers' compensation,
right.
Social
And
Security.
You'd want an expert in those areas anyway.
Absolutely. And so the really great thing is I'm able to participate in a lot of networking groups. Some are lawyer-specific, some are not. So chances are, even if I don't have the ability to help you if you've got a great personal injury case or something, I know somebody who can. And so I always want everybody who calls me to feel like I helped them in some way and not just hearing, no, I don't do that. I'd rather say, I don't, but give me a day and I'll get you some names.
Yeah, someone in Beaufort or Snellville, let's say, oh, I've got a friend that I know that can help you, that's real close to where you live.
Exactly.
And you're based here in Gwinnett County, as we've talked about, but today's world with technology, I mean, you can help people with all these types of family law. I would think there's no reason a lot of times they even need to come into the office to see you. You could probably do a lot of it virtually.
That's absolutely
true. So anybody who's listening to us maybe in the state of Georgia right now is a potential candidate for you, whether it's a divorce, a will, family, any kind of family law, estate planning. Jennifer Deloach could be their person.
I want to be their person for sure.
How would they find out more about you? Where can they learn more about you and your firm?
So we have a presence on Facebook. It's just search for the DeLoach Law Practice, DeLoach Law Practice. And I also have a website, DeLoachLawPractice.com. You can also email me at Jennifer@DeLoachLawPractice.com.
Great. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Jennifer
Deloach with the DeLoach Law Practice here on Gwinnett Business Radio. She loves what she does, Harper.
I can tell.
Yeah, and love is what makes a Subaru. One of our big partners here. Enjoy big savings and a hassle-free experience at Subaru of Gwinnett, where people sell cars. Visit SubaruofGwinnett.com and join their family today, or come on in and see the difference. If you're already a Subaruist, then check out their Facebook page for the latest news, offers, and community events. As we wrap up our show here in the Subaru of Gwinnett studio. Yeah, Harper, I'll let you finish it off.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for being here today. On a
you.
Rainy July of all things. It's supposed to be hot and sunny and all that, and and it doesn't rain in California very much.
No, it doesn't.
But when it does, it's certainly a lot different, and everything is green for the next 2 or 3 days. But thank you, Jennifer, for being here.
Thank you, Harper.
Whether it be Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Speaker, what else do we have? TuneIn. This is a platform that would allow you and others to express your business and get the word out on what we're doing, and we're glad to be a part of that. So for Jennifer Deloach, for Mike Salmon, this is Harper LaBelle. Thank you for listening to Business Radio X today. Tune in again next week. We'll have another interesting guest from the Gwinnett area. We look forward to broadcasting that. Until then, have a great day.